Next up, we have photographer and creative director Sequoia Emmanuelle.
Hello everyone, I'm Sequoia Emmanuelle and I'm super excited to be here for this Adobe event. Thank you. And a little bit about myself. I'm a photographer and creative director here in Los Angeles, and I am involved in my photo shoots in almost every single way, with coming up with makeup ideas, hair, styling, set design, lighting, post-production, all of that kind of stuff. And I have done a little bit of everything, and I thought I would show you a little journey of how I ended up doing all those things, because I actually started off when I was very little. It all started long ago as a little girl with big dreams. This was my mother, Julia, and these are some photos I found of her recently, some of my favorites, at the Renaissance Festival in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I grew up. And when I was 2 years old, we met Phil. He was also called Adobe the Genie. And at the festivals, he would bring the snake out to the belly dancers. And you can see in the back, this is me. And my mom made these costumes for us. And in the back, you can see crystal wrapped jewelry that he used to sell, as well as clothes that are painted on, and everything was kind of gypsy style. And this is some early influences that I had with both of them. There was painting and sewing costumes with my mom, photography with Phil. He showed me how to do sets, lighting, studio, and styling. And growing up in the Renaissance Festival, being surrounded by lots of characters in costume all the time, that's just kind of my world since I was little. And being surrounded by spiritually themed psychedelic art. This is a picture of my mom's artwork that she did, a self-portrait of herself. This is like a very old painting that I still love. It's my favorite of hers. And this is a little bit more of her work, which you'll just kind of see this influenced in my work as well. This is me. And when I was when I was little, the way that Phil and I bonded was we would go off and do little adventures, and I would pick out my outfits and we'd go find locations and shoot. So this is high school, and I thought this was a great example of showing you how I started creating these environments with lots and lots and lots of stuff. I was a quiet kid, but I created crazy stuff all around me. And my family went through some rough years, and I didn't think I had the option of going to college because of money. But with hard work and determination, it's a long story, but I was able to convince the school to let me in and help me get some scholarship money. So I went to Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and in 2002, I went to MCAD. Through MCAD, I did an exchange program with Parsons and the New York Studio program. And I spent a semester doing independent study and an internship. And during my semester, I created an environment of landscapes and otherworldly portraits. I used photography, painting, and mixed media. And these are some images I found. I was so happy that I thought they were lost. And originally, I took photos of my friends with film, black and white film, and I printed them on this really cheap blue printing paper for some reason. I was so broke at the time. And I painted these crazy psychedelic patterns all over them. And I am starting to do another series that's inspired by way back then when I made these. So this is some current versions of that I've started to use digital art layering, and now I'm printing out and doing mixed media too, which you'll see later. And back to young years in New York, this is my first clothing line that I made. And you can kind of see the references from when I was a little kid in the Renaissance. There's clothes that are all hand painted and cut up, and I used to print my photos and put them on there. And So yes, also early shitty artwork I wanted to show you. This was a special time. I ended up moving in with a street artist who was successful, and I was like, I'm gonna do that. So I got really excited, and I had my new clothing line, and I don't know why I decided to use this fold-out thing. I painted on it, and it was so flimsy, and I was by myself. So if I had to go to the bathroom or anything, the thing would fly over, my stuff would break, and it was just a disaster. But it's really nice that I have these photos to show for. So this is kind of the current version of those old clothes. Now I have some new artwork that I'm printing on clothes as well. And this is more shitty artwork. This was my early Photoshop days. And this is me in the top corner with the rainbow hair. I love that. They used to call me Rainbow Girl, and I had my hair like that for about 3 years. So the other thing that I thought was hilarious about these pictures is you can see the themes of, there's like the portraits with everybody with leaves, because at the time I discovered that painter tool that made leaves fly everywhere. And I just got obsessed, and I did that to everybody. And I had this plug-in that put light beams, and I put them on everybody's hands and had them coming out of heads and stuff. So that is pretty awesome. I still do stuff like that. This is a little bit more of I was a body painter, so in here I actually painted the models. And this is kind of more early Photoshop layering type stuff. This is a little bit more of the current version of that. I moved to San Francisco in 2005, and I met tons of these amazing performance artists and just radical people that I was so inspired by. And so I was going to music festivals, and Burning Man and all of that was influenced in my work. So you can kind of see here. Got a lot more kind of dark and moody and mystical. And 2007, I joined a clothing line, IN 2013. I was the designer for the women's line, and I went to Bali for my first time, which was a huge dream come true. And here's a little example of us in the studio working on designs and stuff. And this was one of my designs, and I was doing all the photographs, of course. Then that went really well, so my boyfriend and I, at the time, Gita, we decided to start a men's and women's line, SMG Clothing. And in 2009, with the success of our clothing line, we got clients in the music and entertainment industry, so we moved to LA. And we opened a store. I was still working as a photographer, shooting lots of other stuff too. And again, this is my photography and my designs. This was our store. Another world that we created in here. It's pretty awesome. I learned a lot about shooting fashion because I was designing clothes, and got to just see all different sides of that, and just running a business and graphic design, kind of everything. More of my designs and photography. And my biggest inspiration of all time has been Prince. And I always wanted to work with him, and was hoping one day I would, photograph him and meet him and stuff like that. And, I'm from Minneapolis, so I was literally wanting this my whole life. And I was on a photo shoot one day, and he came into the store, and I wasn't there. And it broke my heart, but he did come in and bought one of almost everything. And this jacket that he's wearing in particular was like made for him, pretty much, like very inspired by him. So it blew my mind, because it was like this thing I literally have been thinking about forever, and it happened a little bit differently than I thought it would, but it's still just, it's amazing. Gita and I broke up, and it was just like things changed, and I was spending so much time and energy on photography, on the clothing store, but my number one passion has always been photography, and I really wanted to pursue other things and get to places in my career that I imagined myself doing. One of them was one day I wanted to publish a book. just like a David LaChapelle book I saw when I was a teenager. So I left this clothing store. I left with no money. I had to start over from scratch and just start shooting everything I could possibly shoot and getting published and just gaining a massive portfolio and a following and everything like that. And eventually I had enough work to start a Kickstarter campaign to self-publish my first book with the help of my fans and my dog Coco. So in 2014, my book was born and I called it Duende. I've heard a lot of different people say that there's different meanings for duende, but when I found it, it was the mysterious power of art to deeply move a person, which just really felt resonant with me. So that was a dream come true. And from then on, I'm just gonna kind of flip through some more of my work over the years, some of my favorites. And my favorite part now is I'm gonna talk about my current work and the process and show you some behind the scenes. So this photo here is from a recent campaign I did for a designer called OTT, and they are based in Dubai. And we discovered each other because I had shot a few of their pieces and they were published in a fashion magazine. So a stylist brought their clothes to me and I fell in love with them and I was kind of obsessed. And they got obsessed with me too. And so they wrote me and asked me to do their next campaign, and I was so excited. And they were like, well, we can't be there, but we'll just send you the stuff. And that's really exciting, but also a lot of pressure because they're not there and you're just really hoping that you make magic happen. And but I've done it before, so they were, actually, we were supposed to shoot in Chinatown and I spent all this time trying to get permits and all this stuff. But it fell through, so I had to, within just a few days, figure out what I was gonna do and make magic happen. So I said, I'll just make a world for you guys. And so I pitched this whole idea. I was gonna like do this whole, set design thing. And so I was like, all right, it's an Asian theme. So what can I do to do something really unique? And so I went, and cheap, on a budget. So I went shopping and I just found, all these lanterns and fans and just different things like that. This is one of my couches and I painted it for the photo shoot, painted the walls. I did this all myself. And you can see all the lanterns and the fabrics. And I was just kind of, there we go. This is what I created. Now, their stuff is, they're like me, like they're not afraid of color and patterns and layers of stuff. I'm getting just kind of crazy. And actually I said to them when we were Skyping, I'm like, so, you want me to go for it? And they're like, yeah, go crazy. We love your work, just go wild. And I was like, really? Because I will. And I did. And I love this shoot so much. This is like fully like, I'm just so grateful that I have clients that let me do stuff like this. And it was just a lot of fun. So here I was just kind of like, testing the clothes with all of the stuff, and I would hang it on the wall and then move the pieces around and kind of see like how I could make the composition. And you can see on the wall, and then there's like the three-dimensional lanterns coming out here. So that was kind of my process of how I created that look. And I thought, these lanterns kind of started looking like coins, but also like scales, but also like water, waves, and stuff like that. So that was what I was thinking with that. I also decided, I'm gonna just make this really interesting and not stick to one thing. And I went and got swatches of their clothes and took them to the fabric district and matched them, because I wanted to have a few images where it looked like everything was melting into each other. So that's kind of an example there of this. And the next one is B. Ackerland. It was a photo shoot for Plastic Magazine, And I don't know if you guys know her, but she is an amazing stylist. She's got a fashion showroom in Hollywood, and she styles everyone from Madonna, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, like all of the major women especially. That she's incredible. So it was an honor to work with her, and so my team and I pitched a bunch of ideas, and it was a lot of like recycled material and kind of like making art out of nothing, which is something I do a lot of for many years. So this was like the idea before, and this was the outcome. So everything was custom made for her, including the dress. Here she's kind of melting into the wall again. All of this was custom painted by my team, and I art directed it. And again, so that was really fun. So here's another painting on glass. So I did this recently, this editorial for another magazine, and I took an 11 by 14 piece of glass, and I took some white paint and water and kind of let it dry and like scraped it off and did all this stuff. And then I was like, okay, now how am I gonna shoot through this? Because when you're looking at your lens and you're trying to focus, it like kind of shifts to the glass and back to your subject and stuff. Is kind of tricky. Also, you get glare and stuff like that. So that was an experiment, but I love how it came out. Very soft and beautiful. And I also ended up shooting through some fabric material with this netting. So usually when I do something, I get really obsessed and I want to do it a million times and try it different ways. So I did it again with watercolor. So I hadn't used watercolor paint since I was a kid, maybe. So I didn't remember how to even use it, and especially not in class. So I just started squirting it with water and moving it around. And I was like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. So that was really fun. I was excited by that. And you can kind of see in the corner, I just clamped it up. And then again, here's how it came out. This is actually something I'm working on right now. It's not even published yet. Usually you're not supposed to show stuff like that, but I thought I would anyways. So yeah, some of the close-ups. I just love like how it kind of makes it more abstract and surreal and interesting and stuff like that. It was challenging though, because lighting it, like shooting it again, this was even harder because I had lights on the side of her, coloring her, and I was getting a lot of glass, so I kind of had to make her get really uncomfortable and move around, angle and stuff like that. So now here's just a few examples of more mixed media stuff that I've been doing. This is work in progress, and I printed it out and started painting on it and just trying stuff out. There's my studio, and this is another one I'm making more three-dimensional. And then I'm just gonna end it with a little bit more of a slideshow of some more of my current work so you can see it, because you saw a lot of shitty artwork too. So thank you guys so much I hope I didn't talk too long. And if you are interested in following more of my work or emailing me or anything like that, I'm all over social media. So Sequoia Emmanuelle, very easy to find, and don't hesitate to reach out and say hello. So thank you.